You were a weapon, a bringer of death. And now, you're nothing. I will keep on killing you. Again and again.
Fast, energetic, and frustrating, Furi is high-energy action with hack, slash, and shoot-'em-up elements. The game evolves around the stranger, who is trapped in a prison, but is let loose by the Voice. Yeah, this guy. You are given weaponry to take down a series of bosses in order to be let free of this prisoned world. The main focus of this game is with the boss fights. Expect to see more interesting beings that will do everything they can to stop you escaping.
Shake your head. Nod your head. It's time to go.
At its basics, gameplay is simple and the controls are easy enough to understand. You can attack, parry, and dodge. You and your boss's health are indicated by a health bar and a series of lives. The stranger will always have 3, whereas the bosses can have anywhere from 3 upwards. When the stranger has taken out the boss's health, they lose a life and enter the next phase. Once the boss has lost all their lives, they are defeated. The same is also for the player. If the player loses all their health, they lose a life. If the player loses all their lives, they lose the fight. However, what is unique here is both the player and the bosses can regain health. If the player takes out one of the boss's lives before the boss does the same to the player will regain all their health and take the boss's life for themselves if they need it. But if the boss takes out one of the player's lives, the boss regains all their health and the phase starts again. It's a clever mechanic and feels fair for the player.
And you think you can get out? Just look at you. You're a joke.
Bosses themselves are rather varied. Your first fight acts as a tutorial, so that you can get used to the controls and what is expected in the journey ahead, but all the bosses will have something different about them. In one fight you might need to use your dodging skills more so, whereas in another you might need to hunt down the boss. This stops boss fights from being too similar to one another and means each boss fight feels individual. As for the difficulty of taking down these bosses, they are tricky. These foes won't go down easy. There will be times you die over and over again, but with time you learn their movesets and their patterns and know exactly how to take them down. To break up the action a little bit, after each boss encounter you'll go through a walking segment where the voice will follow and talk to you about the next boss battle. These don't last more than a few minutes at each time, but they do give you a moment to recompose and get ready for the next fight.
The jailer is the key. Kill him, and you'll be free.
As for the shooting, attacking, parrying and dodging, they all feel good when everything is working. Occasionally you'll find there are times where, for example, you may think you hit the dodge button, but you actually don't and miss the dodge altogether. This can be frustrating, but it only happens a number of times. You'll get used to hitting your controller buttons all the way down. Visuals and performance are both good. If anything, the performance can decrease in walking segments, but these areas don't require much from the player, so this shouldn't really matter. As for the battles, the performance is strong, with only the very rare occasion the frame drops for a second or two. These are rare and will only happen once or twice throughout your entire playthrough. It's no deal breaker, but when it happens, it's not something you want. Above all, Furi gives you the ability to take down foes how you want. The moves are simple and easy to understand, but ultimately hard to master. As you progress, you learn more from your past fails and more of an intriguing story. At around 5 hours long, Furi is worth the fight, and your time.
That was sweet. You beat her at her own game. She was a cheater anyway.